Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Chasing the Racing podcast. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2019. My name is Kyle Young. I'm here to hang out with all of you and talk a little bit of racing on the first Monday night of the month of December. Hard to believe that 2019 has made it to its final month of the year. Thinking about all the things that happened a year ago and knowing that we are now a year beyond all of that is just insane. It feels like so short, such a short time ago that I was getting all sorts of excited and preparing to run in my very first Enduro race. It was a year ago yesterday that I bought my Enduro car. And it's crazy to think that was a year ago, and here we are getting ready to wrap up 2019 and looking forward to 2020. Incredible! It's an absolutely incredible thing to think about, but it is the reality, and it's time to start looking forward and thinking about the future. I hope that all of you had a fantastic week, had a fantastic weekend, found some type of racing entertainment to enjoy. I was able to do that. I attended my final 2 races of the year this past weekend at Wall Stadium Speedway in Wall Township, New Jersey, their annual Turkey Derby event. Unfortunately, the Sunday portion of that event did not happen. There was a lot of weather that moved into the area yesterday, so they made the decision to postpone yesterday's show to this upcoming Saturday. I will not be able to attend that. I have plans with my brother and one of his friends to go to a Philadelphia Flyers hockey game, so we'll be doing that instead of going to Wall Stadium Speedway for the remainder of that event, which does stink because now that I am at the end of my race chasing year, I'm left without a race to go to in the month of December, which is a problem because I have had a consecutive streak going of races attended in every month since like January 2017 or something like that, or maybe it was either January 2017 or January 2018. I think it goes back to. I'd have to double check, but I've had this long consecutive streak going where I've gone to at least one race a month for like 2 or 3 years now, and that is in jeopardy because I do not have any races going on, or at least to go to right now in December. I've got a lot of things that I need to accomplish this month, so I would be surprised if I'm able to make that happen, but I guess it's still early. I guess there's a possibility that we can make something happen, but we'll just have to wait and see how that all goes. But at least for now, it looks like that streak is going to come to an end. So we're going to kick off the show talking about everything that went down at Turkey Derby this past weekend, as we always do. Seeing that this is a race-chasing related show, we always start off with what I did in the race-chasing world. So we'll talk about Turkey Derby tonight. Lots of NASCAR news, as always, some dirt racing-related news, and then we'll kick things over to you guys, let you have a say as to what we chit-chat about tonight. So without any more delay, let's jump into it. Let's talk about Turkey Derby. Turkey Derby 46 at Wall Stadium Speedway in Wall Township, New Jersey. Made the trip down there on Friday for the first day of the show. Friday they ran Sportsman, Limited Late Model, Factory Stocks, and 4 cylinders. Very cold weekend of racing, to say the least. End of November, early December in the Northeast, you can expect things to be cold, and this was no different. Fortunately, they did have a nice heating tent up for people to jump in and get some heat if they were needing that. But the weather didn't really have much of an effect on Friday or Saturday other than that. The Sportsman division kicked off the night, or the day, more so the day, with feature racing. They're Sportsman. They're basically your typical asphalt, pavement, open wheel modified that races in the Northeast. It's just probably some motor-related rule that is different between that and the other modifieds that race at that track. So they kicked off the program. They had a bit of a rough start. There were a lot of yellows in the beginning portion of the race, but things did start to clear out in the second half of the race. They were able to get some more green flag laps in, and those green flag laps did produce some really good racing. Saw some nice battling in the top 5, and once things kind of progressed and you got the rougher drivers weeded out, it ended up producing a pretty good show to start the day. When the checkered flag flew, leading the entire event from the pole, it was a 50-lap feature, was the number 12 machine of Kyle Sisko. He, as just mentioned, started in the front, led all 50 laps, and took the feature win by 2.5 seconds over second-place finisher Kevin Davidson. Karsten DeGiantommaso finished in third. Jared DeGiantommaso finished in fourth. Michael Rising finished in fifth. Eric Lane was sixth. Earl Paulus was seventh. Jake Nelke in eighth. Jonathan Loray in ninth. And Shannon Monjo rounded out your top 10 in that feature event. Shannon had himself a very busy Friday, and we'll continue to talk about him as things progress here. After the Sportsman was the limited late model feature. This was one of the 2 worst feature races on the entire weekend. Hands down the worst feature race that raced on Friday. These guys could not get things going for the life of them. And they only had 12 cars that ran the race. Insane amount of caution flags. There was one caution where a car had spun into the sand barrels that protect the pit wall opening to the entrance of turn 3. So did damage to that, had to take some time to repair that and clean all of that up. Later on in the race, there was a red flag delay for one of the cars. I think that was a race where the car had broken a rear axle and was dumping axle fluid or some type of fluid all over the racetrack. Literally put a single line all the way around the track, so they had to delay the race again to clean all of that up. And then we had some drama between Shannon Monjo and which one was it? It was Brandon Terbush. The two of them got into it after Monjo was taken out of the lead in that feature. He led the majority of that race. Started third, put himself up in the front pretty quickly, and then things got bad. He led a good portion of the race. I originally thought that he kind of did it to himself, but I didn't catch it all right at the beginning of all the craziness that happened. But leading the race late in the going, he comes up on a lapped car, and he just ran right over the lapper. He ran right over top of the lapped car, and the two of them spun out. Again, maybe I had missed something by not catching it right at the moment that it had happened, or catching it early enough to see, but to me it just looked like he ran straight over the guy. Dumped the lapper, dumped himself, and took himself out of an opportunity to win the race. I had thought that maybe he'd be all right, seeing that there was a small amount of drivers left in the race. But eventually, Monjo and Terbush were beating the hell out of each other while Monjo was trying to get his way through the field. And Monjo was not able to recover. So the two of those guys were not happy with each other. I'm not going to lie, I partially don't remember all of the details of the Turbush Monjo ordeal. I did take notes throughout the weekend, so I would know what I was talking to you guys about, but I don't completely remember everything that happened with that. I just know that Monjo was being pretty aggressive to get his way back up through the field. I think Turbush took him out. I think that was a case. I think, if I can remember correctly, I'm pretty sure Monjo used Turbush up in 3 and 4. Turbush had no appreciation for that whatsoever. Drove it down into turn number 1 and cleaned both of them out. Took himself out, took Monjo out. They both go sent to the back, and then Monjo's able to come his way back through. And despite all the craziness, he was still able to finish third, grab a third place finish. But probably had that race locked up, had all that drama that happened late in the going. 12 cars, only 6 of them finished, and it took well over an hour to complete the race. So that was, without a doubt, the worst race of Friday's show, and one of the 2 worst races all weekend long. In the end, though, the victory was claimed by Chris Turbush in his number 81 machine at the end of the 50-lap contest. Yeah, 50 laps, and it took that long. Jared Hayes finished in second. As mentioned, Shannon Monjo finished in third. CJ Lehman was fourth. Brandon Turbush fifth. Pat Brown sixth. Brian Doyle seventh. Jeremy Dorr eighth. Ray Manieri in ninth. And Michelle Morriman rounded out the top 10 finishers. I don't have the last place finisher, but Wayne Corey Jr. finished in 11th. So there's the majority of the field, your rundown from Friday's limited late model feature event. Factory stocks were the penultimate race on the card. I absolutely love factory stocks at Wall Stadium Speedway. I have never really been much of a fan of factory stocks on the dirt tracks. I just kind of think that they're boring. The cars don't look all that great. The racing isn't all that great. They're just kind of a support class that is out there. I've never found much entertainment by factory stocks on the dirt. Completely different story with factory stocks on the pavement. I saw them on the pavement for the first time in this event 2 years ago and absolutely loved it. Great short track racing. Those guys beat and bang the hell out of each other, but it's not like it's excessive or unnecessary or takes away from the show. These are big, beefy stock cars that these guys just lean on each other. It puts on awesome racing, and this race was no different. There was some issue with that race, and the fact that there was an intentional retaliation between 2 drivers that forced one to go spinning into the sand barrels again at the edge of pit road. And created a lengthy delay. There was a side-by-side battle coming off of turn 2. 2 cars leaned into each other a little bit. The guy that was on the outside that got hit didn't appreciate that and right-reared the guy, spinning him at directly driver's door first into the pit opening and destroying the sand barrels for the second time on Friday's show. So that created another delay for them to clean it all up. But in the long run, the event was very good, and it was fun to watch. Recovering from all of his mistakes in the limited late model race was Shannon Monjo, as he was able to pick up the feature event for the factory stocks after 40 laps. Monjo wins it. Brian O'Shea finished in second. Joey Hellberg Jr. finished in third. Billy Both was fourth. And John Carpenter rounding out the top 5. Kevin Flores was 6th. Elliott Wall 7th. Mike Montano 8th. Joe Monjo in 9th. And John Bowers rounding out the top 10 finishers in the factory stock feature. Final feature on Friday's card was the 4-cylinder race. This was another really good race. You had some cautions in it, as just about everything had. But this was an exceptionally good race. Compared to the factory stock race, they're right on par for the 2 best races of the entire night. One of the competitors in that race, Ronnie Mullen. Very fast race car, but he got spun out early on in the race. He was able to recover from that early spin, and he eventually took the lead. Looked really, really good. But while he took the lead, he roughed up the leader. That leader was Neil Rutt III, who, ironically enough, was nominated for Most Popular Driver at Wall Stadium Speedway this year. So he roughed Neil up to get the lead. Neil didn't appreciate it, and he dumped him. So you had some more retaliation going on there. That took the two of them out of the race and left Joe Warren and Alonso Morales to fight for the lead. Alonso was hellbound on making the top side work. He was not afraid to go up there to try to make the pass for the lead. For the most part, those guys' that battle was incredible. Joe running down on the bottom, Alonso using the top side, and he can never really make it work up top, but he was doing a good job of using the top side to build up some momentum and have an opportunity to try to sneak down low underneath of Joe. Made a really good shot at it coming off of turn 4, coming to 2 laps to go. He made the top to bottom crossover, but he was not able to do it. He made some contact with Joe, lost the momentum, and lost enough space at that point to where he wasn't able to get back up to Joe. And Joe ended up going home, at least at first glance, with the victory. Come to find out that as I was walking into the grandstands on Saturday, Joe was disqualified in post-race tech. So Joe Warren does not get the win. That did give the win, however, to Alonso Morales. So Alonso Morales, your victor in the 4-cylinder feature. Chuck McDonald finished in second. Rob Longo was third. Mike Lavery fourth. Robert Laskowski finished in fifth with Ian Ashford sixth. Marco Vukcanic in 8th, Nicole Rosano in... Hang on. I think I have to adjust here. Marco Vukcanic in 7th, Nicole Rosano in 8th, Cody Critelli in 9th, and JC Duvall rounding out the top 10 for the 4-cylinder feature event on Friday night. And as mentioned, that concluded Friday night's show. So, Sportsman race started off rough, ended up being fairly decent. Limited late model race was an absolute joke. Factory stocks were good. 4 cylinders were good. So overall, a solid night of racing on Friday to kick off the show and led us into an even busier Saturday for racing. We had 5 divisions racing on Saturday. We had the ATQ MRA racing, which I believe stands for the Atlantic 3/4 Midget Racing Association. TQ Midgets. You had Legends cars, you had Tour Type Modifieds, Dirt Modifieds, and SK/Wall Modifieds. The TQ Midgets started things off. Excuse me. Those guys had some early cautions in the event, but things did improve. They are the only class that weekend that runs on the inner racetrack. So Wall Stadium it's a smaller short track, but it's a pretty high bank short track. And down on the apron, they have a flat little surface where they run the TQs at. So that's where the TQs raced. Lots of really good racing in the top 5. Those guys were battling it up really good, made some nice moves going through lap traffic. There was one small flip early in that race. Well, I was kind of in... kind of in the middle point of the event. I didn't see how it all happened. I caught it after the car was already upside down. I forgot the name of the driver that flipped over. Otherwise, I would mention him. But my assumption is that he probably just got hit, spun, and did like a little weight shift flip. He was sliding on his roof, and then as the car was spinning around, it came back on all 4 wheels. He was all right, though. Probably the most significant... Well, I mean, there were a couple high-impact crashes. But one of the more significant crashes of the weekend. But after it was all said and done, The feature win went to Jeffrey Sutton once the checkered flag flew on lap number 30. He did lead the entire race. He did not start on the pole. I think he was the outside pole sitter and was able to take it away from Ryan Tidman. So Jeffrey Sutton gets the win. Richie Davidowitz finished in second. Joey Bailey in third. Ryan Flores is fourth. I have to mention this because it's for my guy. Ryan Flores is actually one of the tire changers for Ryan Blaney's Cup car in the NASCAR Cup Series. So that's pretty cool. I always enjoy getting to watch him race during the winter months. Ryan Tidman rounding out the top 5. Kyle Tarasco was 6th. Anthony Payne 7th. Jeff Cott in 8th. Steve Craig 9th. And Ronnie Mullen rounding out the top 10 for the first feature event of the Saturday portion. Legends feature followed that. That was a pretty dramatic event. They had the best start all weekend long. They ran the first 22 laps of their feature race caution-free. Once they did get their first caution, they kind of bred more cautions and things got a little more chaotic after that. They had a restart with 3 laps to go, and off of that restart, the car that was leading was Daniel Silvestri. I forgot who he was battling with. But either way, he ended up dumping the second place car in what I thought was a pretty clear his fault type crash. The second place got a way better run on him on the outside, and it just looked like Silvestri pushed out the racetrack, hit him in the left rear, and turned him around. Race officials did not see it that way. They deemed it a racing incident, so he did not get sent to the back of the field. He got to keep his lead. Fortunately, though, Karma was not on... Karma was on the right side of things, and he was not able to win that feature event. Noah Corner stole things from him. Took the lead with 2 laps to go after the ensuing restart with 3 to go. Took the lead with 2 laps to go, put enough of a distance between himself and Silvestri in order to hang on, and Noah Corner took the victory. In the Legends feature, Daniel Silvestri finished in second. Richie Davidowitz was third. Braden Martinez was fourth. Daniel Carter fifth. Glenn Corner sixth. Regan Parent was seventh. Or maybe it's Parent, like Mikel Parent. There were a couple Canadian drivers, so maybe he was one of them. Sean Verwise was eighth. Connor Holderbach was ninth. And Matt Maring rounding out the top 10 in the Legends feature event. Third feature on the day for Saturday was the Tour Type Modified feature, probably the biggest race of the entire weekend, 150-lap event. Brought in a ton of people, as the Northeast usually does for the pavement racing fans. Modifieds are very popular up in that area. These guys had a ton of green flag racing. The field kind of was packed up for quite a while, just kind of playing ring around the rosy around the bottom. But then I think they ended up having a caution like around lap 46 or so that kind of saw things start to spread out at that point. The top 3 had separated. Then you had the guys like in the back part of the top 5 and the upper part of the top 10 that were all running together, and then you had the rest of the field behind them. As the race continued to progress, the top 3 ended up spacing out. The way that the race was structured is that if they had a caution after lap 100, everybody would have had the opportunity to pit for tires, but they never had one. I think they ran like more than the last half of the race completely caution free, so they didn't end up having any cautions for pit stops, and it was just a straight up ass kicking by Money Matt Hirschman. He started on the pole, led the entire race, went to victory lane. Not much of a surprise there. He's pretty damn good when it comes to modified racing. Andrew Krause finished in second. Tyler Truex was third. Over half of a track back at the end of the event. Race Monitor has it as, well, yeah, that makes sense. Race Monitor only says 6.1 seconds back, but it was half a track. They're running 13-second lap times at that place. Justin Bonsignor was fourth. Matt Swanson 5th, Eric Moriello was 6th, Jamie Blewett 7th, Earl Paulus 8th, Derek Hopkinson 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was Andy Jan Koyak. Only 8 cars finished on the lead lap, and as mentioned, lots of green flag racing to help create that situation happen. And Money Matt Hirschman collecting more money, collecting another checkered flag as he picked up the victory for the Tour Type Modified feature. Penultimate feature on the Saturday card were the Dirt Modifieds, the Northeast Dirt Modified, Center Steer Modifieds, if the Modifieds that I'm accustomed to. I'm not entirely sure what the rules are for that class when they come and run them on the pavement. I usually kind of go by sound on which type of modified it is, whether it's a Sportsman 358 or Big Block. But at least down in that area in like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, their Sportsman cars are run with open Sportsman motors, where up here in New York they're crate Sportsman motors. So they sound different. So I don't know if it was just open Sportsman, if you could run Sportsman, modified, whatever, but they had a decent field. I think they had 17 cars, and the racing was actually pretty good. They had a big wreck right off the start. It was only really big because it just kind of blocked up the field, and a lot of guys just stacked into it. Didn't really take a lot of cars out. But they had a good amount of green flag racing, and the racing was good. Lap traffic kind of made things more interesting with the leaders. It allowed them to bunch up. Where they were spread out a little bit. At one point, you had the top 4 all bumper to bumper trying to make their way through traffic and battle each other for the win. And for the lead, of course. Eventually, they did get a caution, and it kind of separated or got rid of the lap traffic and allowed them to settle it amongst themselves, but the lap traffic did end up coming back into play. Dylan Steyer was the 17-year-old kid that ended up picking up the victory. He made some fantastic moves throughout that race. He had to work his way up to the lead. He made a 3-wide split with the leader on the lap car to stay side by side with the leader, and he eventually won that battle and took off, won the race by just under a second over Ed Dockenhausen. Fantastic race. It was extremely exciting to watch him put on that show. Some of those guys were doing a little, your classic dirt track sliding around that racetrack instead of just running it like your average pavement track. But it was a very fun show to watch, and well worth it. So Dylan Steyer picks up the win over Ed Dockenhausen. Rob Anderton was 3rd. Chris Gerback was 5th. 4th, holy cow. Wow, that was a butcher. Chris Gerback in 4th. Jeff Parker was 5th. Corey Edelman was 6th. Scott Maher Jr. was 7th. Scott Maher Jr. was 7th. Ricky Yetter was 8th. Dakota Kessler in 9th. And Christopher Cook running out the top 10. The final race on the event were the SK and Wall Modifieds. And this was the second of the other 2 horrendous races on the weekend. This was the worst show on Saturday. These guys could not go green to save their lives, and I was feeling alright for it for the most part because they were counting caution laps until halfway. Once they hit lap 50, no more cautions. It's a 100 lap feature. Caution laps were not counting after that point. And their caution procedure was ridiculous. Every caution, they have one of the 2 flaggers go down, and clearly they were doing some type of pit road ordeal because the flagger would come down and wave a green flag. They'd have green flag or caution flag pit stops, and then they have to get the lineup set up. So they ran at least 10 laps of caution, like every single caution period, and we were getting cautions like maybe after 30 seconds worth of racing. It was terrible. It ruined the show. It made it uncomfortable for the night as it grew longer into the night. We ended up leaving there, or the show got all over at 7 o'clock, but still, it was cold, it was uncomfortable, and the racing was miserable. Late in the going, Tyler Truex and Eric Moriello were racing up towards the front. The 2 of them got spun around after making some contact with Jamie Blewett. I think at that point, Moriello was leading, Truex was 2nd, Blewett was 3rd. Blewett got into the back of Truex. Truex got into the back of Moriello. The 2 of them spun around. Blewett ended up going on and taking the lead. I don't know if they had penalized him or not. I kind of feel like they did. But Blewett ended up going into the pits just before they went back green flag. He came out after they went green, and they didn't give him like any opportunity for like any courtesy laps or anything like that, like they were for other guys. So it kind of made me believe that he got penalized for that spin. After all that drama with that, anyway, it put Matt Hirschman in the lead, and Hirschman had made a pit stop from the front of the field earlier in the race, and with all the cautions and the drama, he was able to work his way back up to the lead. A lot more drama ended up happening at the end of the race. As the field was coming around on the final lap, Hirschman had a pretty big lead, so he took the checkered flag just before they ended up throwing the caution flag for this crash. A car or two had spun around, kicked up a lot of smoke, and there were guys, a crowd of cars that were battling, and they came storming in there, piled in. Actually, I think it was Eric Moriello was the guy that got spun around. He got drilled. Blewett was involved. Truex ended up getting involved, and I think there were 2 or 3 other cars. Pretty big damage, and it pissed off a lot of people. There was a ton of people around my area that were screaming at the officials for not throwing the caution flag, and by the time that they had done the review and everything, they did throw the caution, they threw the checkered as Matt Hirschman was coming by to take it. That's probably why they were trying to hold off on the caution, so that way they could get the race finished without having to throw the caution and re-rack them up for another restart. Not the right decision to be made, as guys piled into the wreck and made it way bigger than what it was. I believe it was Moriello's car ended up catching on fire because of the impact. But in the end, it did end up being Matt Hirschman who picked up his second win on the day, doubled up in the modified features. Zach Alspack finished in second, which was kind of a surprise to me because Andrew Krause was running in second prior to that. So I'm assuming that he ended up getting disqualified because he's down in 22nd place in the results, and there was nowhere near 22 cars that finished. So I'm guessing he ended up getting disqualified for something. I'm not entirely sure as to what, though. Oh, wait. I could be wrong about that because it's actually showing Andrew Krause in fourth. He's on there twice. So I guess we'll just read it off like this. Matt Hirschman wins. Zach Alspack was second. Eddie McCarthy third. Andrew Krause fourth. Michael Gervais in fifth. Jason Hearn was sixth. Danny Bones seventh. Eric Moriello eighth. Tyler Truex ninth. And Ken Matlock was in 10th place. If that goes to show you how few cars were running at the end of that race, Moriello and Truex were involved in that crash, and they still finished in the top 10. So horrible race to end the night, horrible race to end the event. But overall, it was nice to go check out some racing, go attend my final racing event of the 2019 year. Some of the races were good, some of them were bad. We just went through the whole spiel. But overall, I am happy that I did go because there really wasn't... Well, there was something else that I could have done this past weekend, at least closer to home. I don't know why I didn't think to pull that up. I'll throw that in here real quick. But the Gobbler ran at the Accord Speedway this past weekend in Accord, New York. I can't believe that I didn't even think to throw that in the schedule. So there. We'll throw that in, and we'll talk about the Gobbler a little bit. So that was the only other thing that I could have done this weekend, but I decided to go to Wall instead because Accord's a tiny, tight little bullring that usually has a ton of crashes and cautions, and it kind of sounded like that's what happened this past weekend. So I'm glad I went. I had my first Airbnb experience, which was nice, so I'm glad that I made that accomplishment. I've been thinking and wanting to try Airbnb out, and finally did this past weekend. So I'm happy that I went. Did see some good racing, and now my year is officially over for 2019 race chasing. So in the end, I compile up a bunch of statistics and stuff, and I'll show you here how I do it in just a second. But I compile everything. I keep track of all my races throughout the year, and I look at all the stats and stuff at the end of the year, just because it's fun for me. I'm kind of a statistics guy, so I like seeing different types of stuff like this. I eventually want to create like a little list of all of the NASCAR races that I've ever been to, and look at who has won all of those NASCAR races, and then come up with a little winners list of NASCAR races that I have seen in person. So my final stats for 2019. I attended 110 races. The second most races that I have ever attended in a single year. Last year I beat that by quite a significant number. I had 137 races last year. 110 this year. I did 101 in 2017. So up from 2 years ago, down from last year. I went to 42 different racetracks. 14 of those 42 racetracks were tracks that I had never been to before, so I call them new to me racetracks. And I visited 9 different states this year race chasing. Obviously, I saw races in New York, Florida, North Carolina, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Jersey, Ohio, and New Hampshire. The 9 states that I traveled to this year to go race chasing. So those are the fun little things that I get by doing this. I'll show you here. So this is how I keep track of my my race chasing. Oh, why is it not showing you? Oh, it's showing you my other screen. Okay. Well, that's not what I was hoping it would do. And it isn't even showing that either. All right. Well, this is just a big old mess, isn't it? What if I minimize that? It does nothing. Well, okay then. That is absolutely not at all what I'm trying to make happen here. I'm trying to show you guys how I compile my race stats. Let's do a quick switch back here. Did that work? No, it did not work. Okay, so I guess this is being all weird and it's not going to allow me to do that. But just know that I have different documents on my computer where I keep track of all of the races that I attend. I got a bunch of different stuff. I've got the races that I attend, a racing schedule. I make an enduro schedule because I'm an enduro enthusiast. I have a list of all of the racetracks that I've been to in my entire life and seen races. I have a list of racetracks that race enduro, so I know where to look for to find enduros. I have a document of New York racetracks to keep track of the tracks in New York that I have and have not been to. And then I have a document where I keep track of every single, I keep track of every race to see how many races I've been to each track since I've started my race chasing thing. And then I have it separated by different statistics, where total races on pavement tracks, total tracks, dirt tracks, tracks by state, and then I have a little miniature list that lists the tracks in order with every state. So it's I lost my train of thought. I have every state that I've been to and all the tracks in that state that I have seen and list those in there as well. It would be so much easier to explain if it was working and I could show you, but I can't. So yeah, I've got 7 or 8 different things that I keep track of. It's just for fun. I'm a stats guy. I love racing, so that's why I do this stuff. So my 2020 race schedule is already over 80 races, and we're just into December right now. So this is where the fun part comes in, where schedules start getting released and I start to add with races, and my racing schedule changes all the time. All throughout the year, I'm adding, subtracting, adjusting races. It's the part of the fun for me. I love it. And although I'm 2 days removed and still have just under a month to go into my next race, I'm already counting down the days and can't wait to get back to the track. So that's all I got for the entire weekend there. We're going to transition into some NASCAR news now. We've had some things announced this past week that is absolutely worth mentioning. The first thing that we will talk about, and this was actually announced before last week's show, but I just didn't end up mentioning it. But since the banquet is coming up this weekend, it makes sense to talk about it. Sam Hunt, the country singer, he was originally scheduled to perform at the NASCAR Cup Series Awards banquet this upcoming weekend in Nashville, but he was arrested for DUI, and he will no longer be performing at the awards banquet. He was arrested in East Nashville Thursday of 2 weeks ago. So that was, Thursday, November 21st is when he was arrested on DUI charges. 34-year-old Sam Hunt charged with DUI and open container violation after his arrest in Davidson County. According to online court records, he was granted a $2,500 bond. So that arrest has cost him his opportunity to perform at the NASCAR Awards banquet, and Chris Jansen will now be performing instead. So at this point, if you probably already know about that, but if for whatever reason you don't, Chris Jansen will be who you will see perform at the NASCAR Cup Series Award banquet, and not Sam Hunt. Congratulations on drinking and driving as a major superstar. Bravo. You made yourself look fantastic. This was also kind of mentioned a bit last week. I mean, it was talked about last Monday, but did not make mention of it either. Apparently, there is reports that NASCAR is thinking about going street racing in 2021 and beyond. A lot of this conversation is probably happening because of Roger Penske purchasing IndyCar. Since you have a NASCAR team owner that is that now owns IndyCar, which is a series that races on street circuits, and with NASCAR saying that they're trying to make a very diverse and different schedule in 2021 than what we have seen, street circuits have now been part of the conversation. The assumption would also be that maybe this happens in conjunction with an IndyCar event, since that they've already had them, and there's always been the talk and the hope that NASCAR and IndyCar will get together and run a conjunction race. So I guess we'll see what happens. Initially, I've kind of been skeptical about street races with NASCAR, because I just think that those tracks are a little bit too tight and narrow for big, heavy NASCAR stock cars. But listening to Dave Moody's show last week, somebody had mentioned people being concerned about that. Just pay attention to the V8 supercars, because they run street circuits, and they do, and that's a really good point. So I guess we'll have to see what all happens with this. In all reality, I'm open for it. Why not try something, and if it fails, at least we know. For me, it's easier to deal with failure knowing that you tried, instead of just wondering what could have been and never getting the opportunity to do it. So I'm all for it. Why not? Let's see what street racing happens. I guess we'll see how things progress with this conversation as we get closer to the schedule announcement for 2021. But who knows? Maybe we will see street racing in NASCAR sooner rather than later. NASCAR handed down a massive team penalty this past week to multiple organizations for manipulating the Homestead Miami Speedway finale finish. This was pretty big. The teams penalized were Premium Motorsports, Rick Ware Racing, and Spire Motorsports. They were penalized for manipulating the results at Homestead Miami Speedway. The manipulation was to help Premium Motorsports pass the number 96 Gaunt Brothers Racing team as the top-ranked open team in the point standings. From my understanding, I forgot where I saw this, is that accomplishment would have been a $700,000 prize in the points fund. And they were trying to do that with Premium Motorsports, the Premium Motorsports 27 car that Ross Chastain was driving on the season finale. So what had happened was, I guess in a very short period of time, The number 15 Premium Motorsports car, the number 52 Rick Ware Racing car, and the number 77 Spire Motorsports cars all pulled out of the race within a 15-lap span due to a variety of mechanical issues. And that's at least what was mentioned. They were, or reported, they were all actually told to get off the racetrack. That allowed Ross Chastain to finish in 35th in the season finale, which gave that car enough points to pass the 96 Gaunt Brothers Racing Team in the owner's points to have that top ranking amongst the open teams for the 2019 season. NASCAR had done their investigation on it. Scott Miller, the senior vice president of competition, said, quote, following a thorough review of race data and driver/team communication from the season finale at Homestead Miami Speedway, as well as interviews with several competitors, NASCAR has determined that the numbers 15, 27, 52, and 77 teams have violated sections 12.8.g and 12.8.1 of the NASCAR rulebook, which addresses manipulating the outcome of a race. As a result, those teams in violation of the rulebook have been penalized as listed in the penalty report, unquote. The punishments for all of this include indefinite suspensions for Scott Eggleston, who is the competition director of Premium Motorsports, and Kenneth Evans, who holds the same role with Rick Ware Racing. They were also both fined $25,000. Team owners Rick Ware, Jay Robinson, and TJ Pusher, they were all fined $50,000, and all four of those teams were deducted 50 points in the owners' totals as well. The four teams being those four cars. So these are huge, huge penalties. Apparently, they didn't learn from the whole Michael Waltrip Racing debacle that happened in 2013. You can understand why that they try to make that happen. $700,000 for the small teams is a significant amount of money. But in the end, does it really seem worth it? Now that you got caught, you got punished, is it actually worth what you went through in order to try to make that happen? Spire Motorsports was the only one that had made a comment about it since it came out. They said, quote, following the season finale at Homestead Miami Speedway, NASCAR assessed a penalty against Spire Motorsports for the actions of an individual who made a judgment call on behalf of our team. While the ultimate outcome of that decision can be interpreted from different perspectives, we regret any appearance of operating outside the spirit of the rulebook. We accept the penalty and will not appeal. We're proud of all we accomplished with this team in our first season and look forward to getting back to the business of racing at Daytona in February, unquote. So that kind of makes you believe that, yeah, we were pretty much well aware of it. We got caught. We're not gonna. We'll take our punishment and move on. They said, as I mentioned there, they said they're blaming it on an individual who made a judgment call on behalf of the team. So take that as you will. But yeah, that is all that went down. This was announced on Wednesday of last week. Hopefully nobody else decides to do something like this again in the future. And now, if anybody does, they have more than one incident to use as an example of what can happen when you do this. So some positive news for a smaller organization in the NASCAR world and a smaller driver in the series. Quin Houff has announced that he will be racing for the next 2 seasons with Starcom Racing full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series. He will take over the number 00 car that Starcom Racing has fielded. That ride has been piloted in the past by Landon Castle, and Quinn Houff ran a number of races with Spire Motorsports this year, but he has landed himself a full-time ride for the 2020 and 2021 seasons with Starcom Racing for the NASCAR Cup Series. So great news for him. I think he ran enough races to be considered Rookie of the Year this year, or a Rookie of the Year candidate for this year. But now he has some security, some comfort in knowing what he'll be doing, and at least for the next 2 years, Quinn Houff will be a regular name in the NASCAR Cup Series. So congratulations to Quinn. JTG Doherty Racing today actually announced their 2020 driver and crew chief lineup. Now, I didn't really think that this was much information to really be that was really needed to be made, or anything to really focus on with this, but to my surprise, they actually made a car change between their two drivers. We obviously all know that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is coming in, Chris Buescher is coming out, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to pilot the number 47 Chevrolet, and Ryan Preece is going to move over to the number 37. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to work with Brian Patty, who was part of his final 3 seasons with Roush. Two of Brian Patty's 6 Cup wins were with Ricky, but they have not made the playoffs the last 2 seasons. This is just some information coming off the NASCAR.NBCSports.com article that was posted about this. And then Ryan Preece is going to work with crew chief Trent Owens. Trent Owens will be the crew chief for Ryan Preece this upcoming season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s comments about this, quote, "I'm very grateful to have Brian join me at JTG Doherty Racing next season. Working together the past several seasons, our relationship away from the track has really developed, and I know that will speed up the process of getting familiar and plugged into the team as quick as possible. He knows what I'm looking for, and I know what he expects from me. The team is a great fit for both of us, and we're looking forward to contributing to the success JTG Doherty Racing has been building," unquote. Ryan Preece also made comments about this announcement. He said, quote, "I'm really looking forward to working with Trent Owens this upcoming season. Our teams worked closely together in 2019. It was impressive to see what he's done with the number 37 team the last 3 years. I really want to continue building on that and bringing both cars into the top 15 regularly next year," unquote. So everything at JTG Doherty Racing starting to come together. Stenhouse Jr. in the 47, Preece in the 37. Stenhouse will work with Brian Patty, and Preece will work with Trent Owens for 2020. A couple of drivers in the NASCAR world announcing or sharing in some regard baby news. We found out this past week that Daniel Hemrick and his wife Kenzie, you may recognize her maiden name as Kenzie Rustin, they will be having their first child, expecting their first child in May of 2020. And then Brad Keselowski and his wife, I believe her name is Paige, they just today, I'm assuming, welcomed their second daughter into the world. Autumn Keselowski was born today. So congratulations to both the Keselowski family and the Hemrick family on their announcements or births of their children and children to be. So some awesome off-season news out of those parties over the last week. Now I'm just trying to figure out how to log off of my Twitter account on desktop. Oh, there we go. It's been a long time since I've been on Twitter on desktop, so it took me a minute there. That's really everything that we got in the NASCAR world this past week. The only other thing that's sort of kind of newsworthy about NASCAR is that Joseph Newgarden made some comments about wanting to compete in NASCAR. He was quoted with Auto Week saying, quote, "I'd love to do some more NASCAR stuff, to be honest with you. I want to do the Bristol Night Race. If I get to choose, it'd be the Bristol Night Race," unquote. Kind of interesting to hear that Joseph is interested in NASCAR like that, but I've always felt it's kind of strange, at least to me, how these guys that race in other forms of racing just think that they can just kind of pick up and plug themselves right into the Cup Series. Like, I mean, I get it. Yeah, Joseph's a 2-time IndyCar Series champion, but for not only not being a NASCAR guy, like, he's not even a stock car guy, period. So how do you just... And I don't have any, like... I'm not saying that I don't think he couldn't do it, but it's just weird to me how, like, these guys think that, or just like, yeah, it'd be cool to go run NASCAR, and just, like, making the assumption that they would just pop into a Cup ride. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of just looking at that the wrong way, but I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to me. Usually the people that make comments like that, you don't really see them actually doing anything in the race, in the NASCAR world, like they say. But I guess you never know. I guess you never really know what could happen. Joseph is still very young. He is a very successful driver in IndyCar. As just mentioned, he's a 2-time champion. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens in the future there. But I'm not expecting that to really be anything to worry about in the near future. So we'll transition over to the dirt world now. We did have some dirt racing to talk about. The Turkey Night Grand Prix happened this past week. That did end up getting delayed by weather, but they were still able to complete that event. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull up the information or results about the gobbler that went down to talk about after Turkey Night, and I got sidetracked there for a minute. Okay. All right, great. I did just find that. Sweet. Okay. All right, so let's go talk about Turkey Night here before we chat about the gobbler. So, Turkey Night Grand Prix, the final event for the USAC NOS Energy Drink National and Western States Midgets. Championship was already decided, and Tyler Courtney was properly crowned champion after this event. But continuing his streak of hot success in the midgets ever since the NASCAR season wrapped up, Kyle Larson picks up his third Turkey Night Grand Prix victory at the Ventura Raceway in Ventura, California. He started 13th. I guess from what I heard on Dave Moody's show today, it's... Oh, wait, never mind. He spun himself out on his second lap of qualifying. His said that he started 16th, but this here says he started 13th. But either way, Kyle Larson, Young Money, continuing the hot streak. He wins the Turkey Night Grand Prix for the third time. Cannon McIntosh finished in second. Spencer Baston was third. Jason McDougall fourth. Carson Macedo fifth. Buddy Kofoid in sixth. Logan Seavey seventh. Tanner Carrick eighth. Shane Golobic ninth. And Ryan Bernal rounding out the top 10 in this year's edition of the Turkey Night Grand Prix. 30 cars took to the track for the what I believe is a 100-lap event. Or is it 70-something? All right, pretend I didn't say that. I don't know. I don't want to be wrong. But yes, Kyle Larson, once again, a Turkey Night Grand Prix winner, this time picking up the 79th edition of the event. And as mentioned, Tyler Courtney, Clausen Marshall Racing, the champions of the 2019 USAC NOS Energy Drink National Midget Series. Tyler was last year's Amesville USAC National Sprint Car Championship champion. So now he's got two of USAC's three major championships. Wonder how hard he's going to put the Silver Crown Series into his plans moving forward. Also worth mentioning that from 24th to 9th, Shane Golobic was the KSE Racing Products Hard Charger Award for the Turkey Night Grand Prix event. So as I just spoiled there, pulling up the results for the Gobbler, the absolute, I can confirm this without any question of uncertainty, the final Northeast Dirt Modified race of the year, for sure, happened this past weekend at the Accord Speedway in Accord, New York. This is only the second time that the Gobbler has gone off on its scheduled date. Usually this event gets postponed in some way, shape, or form. It was extremely cold at Accord on Saturday, but they still managed to run the race. Of course, the Modifieds, the biggest class on the field, or in the show, but they also ran Sportsman Modified Street Stocks and a 50-lap Enduro. From what I heard, that Enduro was a little bit disappointing. I had a good friend of mine that went. But nonetheless, the Gobbler, the 50-lap modified feature, that was won by Andy Bicchetti. Danny Creighton finished in second. Joe Judge was third. Jimmy Wells fourth. Anthony Perego fifth. Richard Smith was sixth. Craig Mitchell seventh. Corey Cormier eighth. Jerry Higby Jr. ninth. And Eric Rudolph rounding out the top 10. They had 24 cars that made the show, and only 4 cars that DNQ'd, so 28 modifieds showed up for the event. Sportsman Modifieds ran for 30 laps. That one was won by Grant Hilfiger. Jimmy Johnson finished in second. Not the NASCAR Jimmy Johnson. No, don't worry. Brennan McGill was third. Kyle Roner fourth. Matt Schultz fifth. EJ McAuliffe was sixth. Jamie Yanone was seventh. Mike White eighth. Dan Morgowicz in ninth. And Kevin Sockrider rounding out the top 10 for the Sportsman. Sportsman also had 24 cars compete, and they had 29 cars show up. Street Stocks ran for 25 laps. That event was won by Walt Henry. Joey Sheffield finished in second. John Hetchinger was third. Emerson Cargan Jr. was fourth. Steve Canuck in fifth. Ryan Brockner sixth. John Miracle seventh. Joel Mearns eighth. Kurt Ayers in ninth, and Anthony Tarantino rounding out the top 10. Those guys had 19 cars officially finish the feature. There was one car that was disqualified and one car that was a DNS. So they had 21 total, but only 19 are going to get credited for the finish, apparently. And then in the Enduro, only the top 5 results are listed here. The 50-lap Enduro was won by George Beringer. Adam Lovejoy was second. Gene Helms third. Travis Brockner fourth. And Tyler White rounding out the top 10 for that Enduro. Those results posted to DirtTrackDigest.com. So that is the my source there for finding those. Appreciate Dirt Track Digest and posting that up so I can figure that one all out. And yes, at this point, I can now safely confirm that there is no more Northeast Dirt Modified racing to be done in 2019. The next time that they will race will be for the Sunshine Swing for the Short Track Super Series down in Florida at the beginning of February. I will be there for that. That is going to happen at the Alltech Raceway, a new track for me, and I'm very much looking forward to getting down there. That also reminds me, I did want to make mention with my personal race chasing stats. I wasn't able to pull anything up to show you, but I did mention that I keep track of all of the tracks that I go to. I originally had on this list a list of tracks that I had just been to. List of tracks that I would show up to, I've seen it in person, boom, I'm adding it on. It got a little messy, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to scrap that, and I'm going to make this list a list of racetracks that I have seen a race at to make it easier. So after this year, I have upped my list to 89 racetracks. I have been to 89 racetracks in my life. I believe that this spans over, let's see. That list of 89 racetracks has spanned over 11 different states and 11 different states and 2 Canadian provinces. This is all starting, all the information that I have, I started keeping track of my races back in 2015. There is one racetrack that I have not been to since I started keeping track, that I have been to in my life before, and that is the Humberstone Speedway, that is in Western Ontario, Canada. So 89 racetracks in my entire life that I have seen races at. 11 states, those 11 states being Delaware, Florida, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Virginia. The 2 Canadian provinces I've been to, Ontario and Quebec. 66 dirt tracks and 23 pavement tracks make up that list. And I have made the decision already. I made that earlier today, realizing that my year is done. The goal for 2020 is to get that list up to 100. My goal, my number one, I'm going to make it my number one goal for race chasing. Race chasing, at least. I'm hoping to be a race car driver again next year. But race chasing goals for 2020 is to get that list to 100. I want to hit the 100 racetrack mark in my lifetime. Well, next year. Let's not make it dramatic and say my lifetime. 100 racetracks next year. That is the goal. So I need to hit 11 new racetracks next year, which I think is going to be pretty easy. And what helped me realize that was Alltech Raceway. That would be one to add to the list I've never been to before. All right, so let's get back on track here. Some more dirt racing news. This one, we had mentioned that Brent Marks was going to continue racing the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series, but I had no idea that he is going to be doing it for a new team. I mean, it was just announced a handful of days ago, but I had no idea that this team had an opening. Brent Marks is going to be moving to CJB Motorsports in 2020, replacing Shane Stewart. I did not know that Shane Stewart was out of a ride at CJB, and apparently I had seen that was announced like back in August, so where the hell have I been? But yeah, Myerstown, Pennsylvania's Brent Marks is going to be competing full-time on the 2020 World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series for CJB Motorsports that will start with the season opening races at the Volusia Speedway Park. February 7th through the 9th for the Dirt Car Nationals. Brent was quoted saying, quote, "They've always had a really fast race car there," referring to Volusia. "Another thing is I have a lot of confidence going into that team. They have a lot of speed. I feel like I race really well. With that combination, we can be successful. I'm excited," unquote. In the Dirt Car Nationals, Marks has had varying results. He's earned, well, all right. Let's stop being funky and let's just read it for what it is. WorldofOutlaws.com article about this. Marks has had varying results at the Dirt Car Nationals, earning at least one top 10 in his first 2 appearances at the event, but was unable to crack the top 20 this year. However, CJB Motorsports has found a lot of success over the years at the event. The team won the Dirt Car Nationals Championship twice, in 2013 with Paul McMahon and in 2017 with David Gravel. This year, during the event, CJB won an All-Star Circuit of Champions event at the half-mile Volusia Speedway Park with Shane Stewart, and then went on to finish second in the first World of Outlaws race of the season at the track with him. After picking up one win with Stewart at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in 2019, the team parted ways with the Oklahoman driver at the end of the year. When searching for a replacement, the phone call went out to Marks, who won the prestigious National Open at Williams Grove Speedway this year. Continuing on with some of Mark's quotes, he said, quote, "I was really excited. It all came about here last week. It was really kind of a surprise to me, but I'm thrilled. It's a really cool opportunity. It's a great opportunity being able to concentrate more as a driver and put 100% of my focus into it and into CJB Motorsports. Just super pumped up about it," unquote. The last 3 years, he has fielded his own full-time ride for the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. Been taking care of the bills, getting the hauler around the country, building his own race cars, and racing for more than 80 races a year. Consumed with the logistics of owning a team, Mark said he wasn't able to focus like he needed to. About that, he said, quote, "It's a great move for me. Takes a lot of pressure off of me. I can focus that pressure on performing," unquote. So yeah, So some pretty awesome news for Brent Marks. He will race for CJB Motorsports next year for the full World of Outlaws and Austin Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. At least to my knowledge, we don't know what Shane Stewart is doing yet. But of course, once we find out, we will absolutely talk to you guys about it here, as we always do. Another driver has made the move from Sportsman Modifieds to Big Block Modifieds in the Northeast world, and that driver's name is Adam McAuliffe. Adam McAuliffe has been a standout in the Sportsman division on the East Coast of New York over the last handful of years, and he will make the move to modified racing next year at the Fonda Speedway. Adam McAuliffe will be teammates to Dave Constantino, racing out of the Hyonga? I'm going with Hyonga Racing. I don't know. He will run DKM Cyclone chassis, and will have both big block and small block modified motors prepared by Grant Racing Engines. Car owner Laudi Hoyenga? Oh, wait. Oh, that's okay. My apologies. All right. Quotes from Dave, or Dave is the teammate. Wow. Quotes from Adam. Holy cow! You can tell that I'm a noob at this stuff. Adam was quoted saying, "Quote: I was approached by Dave Constantino at the end of the season to drive for his car owner Laudi Hoyenga, so we set up a meeting and it was a go right off the bat. I am looking forward to going racing with some of the guys that I grew up watching, and these guys are some of the best out there. I think my biggest challenge will be getting used to the horsepower of Big Block, but I'm sure I will adapt quickly. I am just really excited to get behind the wheel in 2020. This move will definitely be a test for myself and my brother Kyle to see what we can really do with this opportunity." Unquote. So Adam McAuliffe moving up to the modified ranks at the Fonda Speedway in 2020. Should be fun to see how well he is able to handle that transition. He's had a lot of success in the Sportsman Modified rank over the years. So I do not have any lack of confidence in him finding success once he does get himself adjusted to the modifieds. The Outlaw Speedway, located in Dundee, New York, has made some awesome announcements over the last week of some major racing series that will be coming into their facility once again in 2020. For the third year in a row, the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series will compete at the Outlaw Speedway once again during the Fall Nationals event. This year will be the 5th annual Fall Nationals, going on September 18th and 19th of 2020. Usually, the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series only races the first day of that, the Friday portion, so that would be September 18th. Not entirely sure if that is still going to be the same or if it's going to be a 2-day show. We'll have to wait until the full schedule for that series is released. But they will be coming back to Outlaw Speedway next year, as well as the Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Circuit of Champions. They will be making their return to Outlaw Speedway next year on Friday, June 5th. Those guys were able to turn 11-second lap times around the facility this past year. And actually, now that I think about it, I saw one of the 360 sprint car shows that I saw. They were actually able to go faster than those guys were. So, Outlaw Speedway is a great track. It's one of my favorites in the in New York State. Great to see those major racing series coming back. We already know that the Short Track Super Series is going to be coming back to Outlaw next year. I would make the assumption that the Super Dirt Car Series is going to come back. Their event this year got rained out, so I'm sure that they are absolutely wanting to go back and make another event out of that racetrack. But we'll have to wait for that schedule to come out to know when exactly that is going to happen. Running down the list here, only a few more things to chit-chat with you guys about. The next one being a suspension that was handed down to New Zealand race car driver Michael Pickens this past week. He was suspended for manhandling an official during a race. There is a video here, but we know that this was being stupid earlier. So, let's see if this is going to... Alright, this is going to change So what I'll do is I'll just do this, is pull it up over here, and I'll show you guys what we are talking about when it comes to this manhandling situation. So yes, Michael Pickens, New Zealand sprint car midget driver, suspended after a confrontation with an official. This happened, let's see. Well, it's pulled up. It'll be a little bit weird to read to you what is on your screen, but I'm going to do it anyway. Leading New Zealand Speedway driver Michael Pickens has been sensationally banned from racing for manhandling an official and will miss the entire International Sprint Car Series, in which he was likely to be New Zealand's leading driver. The incident occurred on the opening night meeting on Friday, November 1st, in which Pickens was contesting both the midget and sprint car feature races, the final 2 races of the night. As he jumped from his midget car, Pickens noticed his brakes were on fire, and he approached a nearby marshal to ask for a fire extinguisher. He clearly placed a hand on the marshal as he yells for help. Pickens was under time pressure to literally jump straight into his sprint car for the next race. Now here's the video of this ordeal. All right. Now I want to remind you that they had just mentioned that this official was manhandled, and he was suspended for this. Check this out. Did you see that? Did you see that manhandling right there? That is what got him suspended. Is that manhandle right there. Unbelievable. Watch this. Bam! Manhandled. Suspended. Joey Logano hit Denny Hamlin harder than that. Come on now. That's ridiculous. A Speedway New Zealand judicial panel found him guilty of manhandling an official, and this week handed him a 22-day ban that will put him out of the upcoming International Sprint Car Series, which sees the best drivers from New Zealand take on international opponents from the United States and Australia. The International Sprint Car Series starts on December 7th with a final on December 14th. Pickens said, quote, "I am blown away. Speedway New Zealand have fixed penalties, but it doesn't always fit the circumstances, and I think it sure as hell doesn't fit this circumstance. My car was on fire, and I was simply trying to get someone's attention to put it out, and I tapped the guy's shoulder to say, come on, let's get moving here. And it has resulted in a 22-day stand down. It is surprising to say the least," unquote. He goes on to say, quote, "Directly after the meeting on the night, the head official called me into the office and told me there had been a complaint made. They all understood the situation and the circumstances of the night. I explained that it was heat of the moment and more of a come on, let's get moving here rather than manhandling like the complaint had described. It wasn't handled properly by Speedway New Zealand on the night, which means it has now gone to a board meeting that happened yesterday. So that means my 22 days stand down started yesterday. I can make an appeal, and I will likely make an appeal just out of principle. It is a cost of $2,000 to me. Bill Buckley, the promoter of Western Springs, has very kindly offered to pay half of it, which is really neat to have his support. If that is the standard they are setting, then I think we are in trouble doing what I did. It just seems unfair," unquote. So that article goes on and continues on. But yeah, that slight little tap on the shoulder that he made got him a 22-day suspension and will cost him the opportunity to race in the International Sprint Car Series. I absolutely agree. I think that it is ridiculous. There really should not be any harm or punishment in that, but apparently that's not how they see it. So Michael Pickens will be dealt with a suspension. The USAC World today announced their dates for their big Indiana Sprint Week event that goes on during the racing season. The 2020 edition has been announced. I was hoping to attend that this year, but was not able to make it happen. So now the goal has been set to make it happen next year. Last year, I saw my very first USAC sprint car races during Eastern Storm, and I absolutely loved them. I was only able to do one this year, but I did see them a couple times in Florida at the beginning of the year. So I would love it to be able to make this happen for real this time. during the summer months next year. And hopefully you will be able to do so as well. The 2020 Indiana Sprint Week schedule starts off. It is a 7 race event this year, or next year. This year it was 8, but next year it will be 7. It all kicks off Friday, July 24th at the Gas City I-69 Speedway in Gas City, Indiana. Then they will make the move to Kokomo Speedway in Kokomo, Indiana the next day on Saturday, July 25th. Sunday, July 26th, we'll see them compete at the Lawrenceburg Speedway in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They will then take the next 2 days off and pick things back up on Wednesday, July 29th at Terre Haute Axle Track in Terre Haute, Indiana. Lincoln Park Speedway on Thursday, July 30th. Bloomington Speedway on Friday, July 31st, and the event will cap off on Saturday, August 1st at Tri-State Speedway. So there are your dates, your events for the Indiana Sprint Week 2020 event that will happen right smack dab in the middle of the summer. This is the 8th time overall and the first time since 2016 that Gas City I-69 Speedway will be the opener for Indiana Sprint Week. The track hosted the opener in 2002 and each year between 2011 and 2016. Let's see. Going on, some more information about this. Indiana Sprint Week debuted in 1988, but first became USAC sanctioned in 1996. Since then, the event has grown from a single weekend to 7 races over a week-and-a-half span and has become one of the marquee events and most sought-after tickets on the USAC AMSO National Sprint Car schedule that draws massive crowds and welcomes travelers from all around the world, or from around the world, both driver and fan alike. The USAC National Sprint Car Division's winningest driver, Dave Darland, owns the most Indiana Sprint Week victories with 20. Levi Jones and Kevin Thomas have the most ISW titles with 4. Newly crowned 2019 USAC AMSO National Sprint Car Champion CJ Leary captured the most recent Indiana Sprint Week title this past summer. I am absolutely hoping to make that happen next year. I was very disappointed that I didn't make it happen this year, but I can promise you that my fire has now been lit, and I will absolutely look to make that happen in 2020. Some news in the two-wheel racing world this week before we get ready to sign things off. Chad Reed has made the announcement that 2020 will be his final season racing in the Monster Energy Supercross. This article coming from dirtaction.com.au says Australian Supercross legend Chad Reed has announced that 2020 will be his final season of professional racing. On the eve of the Monster Energy AusX Open in Melbourne, the veteran announced that he plans to race the 2020 AMA Supercross season with support from Mountain Motorsports. However, it will be his last. Quote, what you see is pretty much what you'll get. Mountain Motorsports has been helping and supporting everything I've been doing. The goal is to go racing, and I'm confident we can make that work, unquote, said Chad Reed when he was asked about his plans. Quote, 2020 will be my final season, so it's a big one, unquote, he added in. It goes on to say, after crashing out of the SX Open in New Zealand, Chad expressed his need to compete in front of the Australian fans. Quote, I need to race this weekend for a lot of reasons, unquote, stated Reed. Tickets are still available. Click here to buy tickets, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Chad Reed announcing this upcoming Monster Energy Supercross season will be his last. Chad Reed, one of the legendary names in Supercross racing, absolutely a shoo-in to be a Hall of Famer one day. A very legendary rider in the sport, wrapping up his career. A very successful, a very historic career, to say the least. Hopefully he can have a fantastic 2020 and ride off into the sunset before he calls it a career. Last thing that I have for you guys, it does involve motorcycle racing again. Ryan Dungey, this announced today, that he will become part owner of Factory Connection Racing. This coming from VitalMX.com. Factory Connection Racing announced today that Ryan Dungey has joined the Geico Honda team as a part owner. The 5-time AMA Supercross champion and 4-time AMA Pro Motocross champion retired from racing after the 2017 season. Now he will directly contribute to the operation of Honda's Satellite 250cc Supercross/Motocross race team. and its elite amateur motocross race effort, and will provide invaluable counsel and coaching for the riders. Quote, after I stopped racing, there were a couple years of waiting for the right thing that made the most sense for me and my family. This came along, and it's a huge opportunity that checks all the right boxes. Factory Connection Racing is a premier team that has had a lot of success and has a great lineup of talented riders. I'll be able to apply my experience and knowledge to the next generation and future generations of riders, and because I'm a part owner, it's something long-term that I can help to build and grow for the future. Between all that and being involved with the Honda organization, there are a lot of positives, and I'm excited to get to work. Unquote, coming directly from Dungey. Factory Connection Racing owner Richard Ziggy Zielfelder said, quote, we're so pleased to have a champion of Ryan stature join our organization. His racing record speaks for itself, but he has also always been known as a professional off the track as well. We're very confident that his involvement with the team will help us to continue growing and improving, and we look forward to a successful future together. So some awesome news there. Ryan Dungey getting himself back into the sport a little bit as he becomes a part owner of Factory Connection Racing and the Geico Honda team. So, my friends, it is now time to turn things over to you. At least on my end, I am only seeing live chat being used by one person. Only one person in here. Whether that is accurate or not, we'll find out. But if there's anybody in here watching on the live stream, if there's anything in the racing world that you would like to talk about tonight, anything that was not mentioned on this episode of the show that you would like to add in, now is your time to shine. Any questions that you have for me, anything that you did over this past weekend racing related, anything and everything that you are interested in talking about, now is your opportunity. Been a good show. Getting right around to our normal time here. Talked about a lot of good things. As mentioned at the top of the show, my race chasing year is done. I have concluded my fun with Turkey Derby this past weekend. I will start my 2020 race chasing year right on New Year's Day, where I will hopefully be racing in the Hangover 2.0 Enduro at the Utica Rome Speedway, and then there will be the second annual Slush Crush 100 at the Adirondack International Speedway on Saturday, January 4th. So those will be my first two events of next year. I'm hoping to get a car together so I can actually race in that and not just be a spectator. That would be fantastic. But I have a lot of things that I have to accomplish this month. Of course, Christmas is this month, so we got to go Christmas shopping for the family. But yeah, that is the next time that I'm going to the racetrack. I will be off entirely for the month of December. And since things are kind of quiet here in the live chat, let me see. I want to confirm. Oh wait, did I move that folder? I think I did. I have a little folder that I keep a bunch of racing information in, and that is where I keep my documents that I print out every year about what I have done in racing. I was going to pull it up and get the accurate number about that. Oh, yep, it's right there. Hang on, one sec. Get that accurate number of consecutive months that I have been to the racetrack. It was behind me. Okay. Alrighty, let's see here. Alright, so 2018, that was the first year I did the indoor races, so that goes back to January. Let's see, 2017. It might actually be the beginning of the 2017 season then, as I kind of thought it might have been. Alright, let's see here. Okay, it's July. Okay, so I have been to at least one race every single month since February of 2017. February of 2017 up until November 2019 is the official list, or the official time that my consecutive month streak has been going on. So if I can't find anything to attend within the next month, that will come to an end. I'd have to go back and count that to see for sure. But nearly 3 years of nonstop racing once every month is pretty damn awesome, if I do say so myself. So it's a shame to see that come to an end. But if it does, it does. And it will be very hard to beat that. Well, I say it will be very hard to beat that. But in all reality, knowing me, it won't be hard. It'll just take a while. So I guess no one's willing to chit-chat tonight. So I guess we'll wrap things up then. Week ahead, probably the biggest thing that's going on is the 52nd annual Snowball Derby is going on this week. Things are going to start off on Wednesday. At least I believe. Event info. Yeah, let's pull this up here. All right. I think I clicked the wrong. Okay. I see what it is here. Okay. So yeah, things are going to kick off the Snowball Derby on Wednesday. Let's see. On Wednesday, you're going to have rig parking and tech will open. Drawdown for qualifying order, free green flag party and pits, live music, Muskogee Ridge or something like that. Then on Thursday, you'll have practice for the Snowball and the Snowflake, practice for Pro Truck, Sportsman, and Pure Stocks. Friday, you'll have practice for the Snowball, Snowflake, and the Modifieds. Modifieds will qualify. Snowball qualifying. Modifieds of Mayhem 75. On Saturday, Snowflake, Outlaw, and Snowball practice. Outlaw and Snowflake qualifying. Snowflake 50 qualifiers. Snowball 50 qualifiers. Snowflake 100. Outlaws 50. And then on Sunday, you have, at 2 p.m., the Snowball Derby, the 300-lap super late model race that will be going on at the Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Probably going to be the biggest thing. All right, I'm dumb. I could have just pulled this up or done this at the start, and that would have been... Okay, no, it wouldn't have been. Never mind. So that'll probably be the biggest thing that we talk about next week is the Snowball Derby. We're down to that time of the year where it gets really hard to figure out what's going on in the racing world. So I'm not even really sure everything that's going on this upcoming week. Of course, as we figure things out, I will absolutely bring that information to you, and we'll find some stuff to chit-chat about for our next show. Although you guys are being quite shy right now, if you are in the live chat and you are not already in our Facebook group or subscribe to our YouTube channel, those links are posted down for you in the chat right now. For you on YouTube, you will have them in the link or in the description, including the Twitch channel if you want to come check us out on a live show. We do this every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will be back next week for our 10th show. 10 shows in coming up next week. The Facebook group, make sure to put yourself in the Facebook group. We discuss anything and everything going on in the racing world, feedback about the shows. I think over this next month I'm going to put up some fun little discussions to have to talk about kind of during this segment, where in case we have a situation like this where people don't show up, where I can pull something from the group and talk to you guys about it, and include the viewers in the action that way, instead of just doing and just relying on people showing up for the live show. Since things are going to kind of start slowing down here a little bit, that'll create some fun to do during the winter months before things start to pick up again in the racing world. So make sure you put yourself in the group if you want to be part of that, and subscribe to the YouTube channel in case you either miss parts of the live show or the entire live show. We upload those to the YouTube channel every Tuesday, so that way you can check it out and get yourself caught up. And yeah, that's all I got. So thank you to those who showed up tonight. No chatters other than myself, but if you were lurking around, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. If you're checking it out on YouTube, come on out and make sure to check us out on the live show sometime every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I know we're competing with Monday Night Football, but if you're looking for racing and like racing a little bit more than football, this is the place to be. I appreciate all the love and support. Make sure to continue to share this around and help this grow. Hopefully I can come up with some money and have some fun sponsorship and advertising opportunities with this show in the future, and we'll get this out to more people and get it more active and more talked about. So thank you again for the support. I very much appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great week, have a great weekend, find some racing to do, to watch, to whatever. We can also talk about Cherokee Derby next week. Cherokee Derby is coming back for the final event with the last day being made up from this past weekend. We didn't race yesterday, so we got to do it on Saturday. So we'll probably talk about that event as well. And whatever else that we can find throughout the week and into the weekend. So until then, next Monday, we'll be back for episode number 10. We will see you guys there. Find a racetrack to go to if you can. Find some racing to watch online. The Snowball Derby will be online, so make sure to check that out if you can't go. And other than that, we'll see you guys next Monday. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you then.